then it's 6 years old. So we had them for 2 weeks when they got out of school.
Fun.
And they go back home, back to lessons.
That's what's always good about being grandparents, when the kids go home.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah, I mean, they can come and visit, but it's always nice they go home.
Now I got peace in the house.
You're lucky. We have, they live with us, so.
Unless you're Lucy.
Yeah, well, Lucy lives with us. The whole, we're in a father with us. Okay, and we all raised Lucy together. So, well, we'll get to it. Today we will finish this chapter. And then Wednesday we start review for the midterm. Next Monday will be the midterm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's not on the 25th or 26th, is it?
Well,
I'm having the procedure done one day soon.
what, they're going to put on a new head?
It's normal colonoscopy stuff.
Oh,
No
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I know. I have
I'm
to
definitely
have,
not going to be coming to class if I'm going to be
well,
I just had
detoxing myself.
I had that,
I have to do the same thing VA wants me to do it again. Well, actually, I did a self-test at home. I want you to do something.
Well, I was going to do it that way, but since my nephew passed,
That's the
lived a month-
25th, yeah. 25th.
he lived a month and 14 days, so I may have to take it after.
Well, the 25th is next Monday, so, yeah.
Yeah, I will be busy.
Well, I can give you the midterm Wednesday to take with you. And you just do it and bring it back on the 27th. Can you do that?
Probably. And what about the other class? Because that'll be Tuesday. Hopefully I'll be okay by then.
Oh, of course you will.
Yeah.
All they are is they put you to sleep. They
I've
do
never been to put to sleep before.
Really?
Never. I'm healthy.
No, look. If they're going to do a colonoscopy, last time I went, they put me to sleep, woke up, fine.
Okay. That's what she said, but I've never been put under, so.
Well, have you had one done before?
No.
Oh, well, see, yeah, see, you don't realize. What time you having it done?
I think she's doing it at 10:30 or
Oh,
something.
you could make the class, trust me. It's no big deal, no, there's really no big deal.
I've got to check what time she's doing it.
Yeah,
I think it's 10:30.
There
I think
no
it's at 30%. Okay.
You're
Yeah,
up
is my
within
brain
half
gonna be
hour
all
if you
right?
have it. You're up and gone and you're
Is
fine.
my brain going to be good?
Well, I don't know. Well, they might take it out and clean it while they're out.
You gotta have somebody to tell you. Take
We'll do it just in case, because I don't want to miss if I don't have to, but if I don't feel like it,
You gotta have somebody to take you there.
yeah, Glenda's going to take it.
Well, they're probably going to put you to sleep, that's why. It's no big deal.
It's no big deal.
Yeah, no, but I've never had one, so.
Oh, well, it's
I had
nothing.
one.
They put you to sleep, they do their thing. You wake up, you're fine, you pass a little bit of gas afterwards, and you're done. You're back to normal. You
Oh,
don't even
God.
know that
Yeah,
anything's
but I'm
ever
not
done.
going to come in here and do that on you guys.
You won't. No, you
Oh,
won't.
no.
No, you won't.
You won't
Okay.
even have time. Your doctor didn't give you no, they didn't give you no medication to take.
Yeah, they gave me a prescription of all kinds of stuff to take.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to
So-
be cleaned out first.
Yeah.
You gotta drink that. Wow. So, about a gallon,
Yeah,
Liquid.
I've had that before too.
and then you gotta, water.
I'm going to call them tomorrow, because they didn't give me any of that.
The last time I did, the first times I know they did that. The last time I went, nope. They just put me to sleep. I woke up and it was all done.
They told me to do, she gave me a cocktail to do. But that, I just got to pick that
And
up
I
myself.
had to
Well,
fast.
but like I said, it's all depends, because I hit about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I'm 70 years old, so it's time we.
You are? Oh my gosh. You guys, neither one of you look great.
Because we're good guys, that's why.
If you say so.
But you're gonna find out this thing. Yeah, you'll be back in class that night. I trust her. You know,
I hope so. I don't.
Huh?
I'm having.
Don't make a mountain out of a molehill.
Well, I can't even get a shot. I'm afraid of doctors.
It's
I
got
don't-
nothing to do with that. They give you.
Well, we'll see. I think it's at 10:30. That's what I think.
Yeah, trust me. By noon, you'll be off to lunch. You won't even know you had it done.
I know I'll probably be starving today.
Yeah, you probably will.
Starving.
Today's the 18th, isn't it?
That's correct. We were supposed to be, but I'm a little behind. So we'll do it on Wednesday and plus on food. And I got flush to get through by the next month. Okay. Now that we've talked about all the things in the medical problems, let's get, let me see. Of course, that was online, by the way.
Was it?
It's on, I turned
Now
it
the
on.
whole world knows I'm having one of those.
Well, only your sister would know about it. Well, maybe others watching, I don't know. We just thank everyone who's watching tonight. Oh, I just thank you for this meeting this evening, and pray that your Holy Spirit will guide us and teach us in all truth and help us understand your word in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay. We're going to go back to, and I think we ended with the Torah. Did we do the Torah? The Torah. It's okay.
We did Philo.
You need to go to your right. It's in that.
We
No,
didn't do
no,
these.
no, no, no. Let the page down. No, down. Let go. Let go. Let go.
We didn't
Come
do
on,
these.
left.
Turn. Yeah, to your left. I'm sorry.
We didn't do these. So
Oh,
the
Torah.
Hippolytus
See,
and
he's underlined. So we did the Torah.
we did this.
Now we start
We did
with
Theosophy.
Ignatius Loyola.
We did the,
Don't tell me that's messed up again. You should know. Should. No, it should be right. Oh, man.
well, no, we're supposed to go to the Kabbalah.
no, we did that one. We already did.
Oh, there he is. There's what the problem is. That's out of order.
Oh,
See,
yeah, we
you
did.
got two Torahs.
Okay, we did
Oh,
this.
because I added one. That's what it was. Because I thought it was missing.
Oh, yeah, Torah.
I'll fix it. Don't worry. Hold on.
This page?
Yeah, we already did that.
We did.
Yeah. That's, if you turn the page, you should see Ignatius Loyola. There, that was my mistake at home, I'm sorry. I didn't, now you're right. Yeah, we did that, because
Okay.
Mr. John underlined it.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now we're going to start, and you might say, with Ignatius Loyola. And you're going to say, what? How does this fit into all this? Well, it does, but it's a roundabout way, because when we get to Westcott and Hort, we're going to see this has a lot to play in what they did in a roundabout way. And this is a history of, first of all, do you know who Ignatius Loyola is or was? Or was, should say.
No.
No. Okay. Ignatius Loyola is the man who started the Jesuits. The Jesuits.
Yeah.
You're lost?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I'm looking
okay.
up something else while you're
Oh,
talking.
sorry, okay.
Seeing if he was in this line here.
No, I don't have him there. I probably should have put him in there, but I didn't. My
But where would he fall in here?
mistake. Oh, well, so you come to that line, and I will show you.
Because this helps, me keep things a little straight.
What's wrong one? No.
And he would have been after, yeah. And then the Kabbalah's not on there either.
No, Kabbalah, it's not on there.
That Kabbalah.
Kabbalah, that's how they pronounce it, Kabbalah. Okay, there we go. Yeah, see, Ignatius Loyola would fall somewhere, well, after Origen on your chart
Yeah.
and before Westcott and Hort. It's in the 1500s. That's where he comes in,
Okay.
1500s. And in there, and after Origen, the Kabbalah, that would come in there, in that spot, which I didn't put them in there, and maybe in the future I will redesign it. So you guys want redesign all the time. Okay, Ignatius Loyola. And I can't speak Spanish, and this is not South American Spanish. This is the what is it called? Anyhow, it's from Spain. Castilian. Castilian Spanish is not the same as South American Spanish. There's very, very similar, and it is the root of South American Spanish, but it is a whole lot more sophisticated. So I don't know, Indigo or Inigo Lopez de Loyola, sometimes referred to as Inigo Lopez de Recale, I don't know how to pronounce that last word, was born in the municipality of, and you can tell me that one too, as Petita, I don't know, Petita, I-Z and E, no, they do that. Because in Italian, the I's would be E, and A's would be his I. And the Castle of Loyola in today's, and it tells you a place in Spain. As a young man, Inigo had a great love of military exercise as well as tremendous desire for fame. He framed his life around the stories of El Cid, the Knights of Camelot, and the Song of Roland. He joined the army at 17, and according to one biographer, he strutted about with his cape slung open to reveal his tight-fitting hose and boots and sword and dagger at his waist. So he was a real guy. Inigo participated in many battles without injury, but the Battle of Pamplona in 1521, he was gravely injured when a French Nevers, I don't know how to pronounce that, Nevers expedition force stormed the fortress of Pamplona on May 20, 1521. A cannonball hit him in the legs, wounding his right leg and fracturing the left in multiple places. In the end, these operations left one leg shorter than the other. Inigo would limp for the rest of his life, and his military career was ended. Over the years, Ignatius became expert in the art of spiritual direction. He collected his thoughts, prayers, and suggestions in his book, The Spiritual Exercise. In 1539, with St. Peter Fabre and St. Francis Xavier, Ignatius formed the Society of Jesus, which was approved in 1540 by Pope Paul III. Ignatius was chosen as the first superior general in order and invested with the title of Father General of the Jesuits. Now, I didn't, if you have an underliner, some of these things should have been underlined, I didn't do them. I missed them in the end. But that date there, 1539, that's when they came into existence. You need to underline it, or use your, in 1539 with Saint,
right here?
with Saint, yeah, that whole sentence, well, the whole sentence was approved by Pope Paul III in 1540. That, you need to underline that, the whole thing. Ignatius sent his companions as missionaries around Europe to create schools, colleges, seminaries. Juan de Vega, the ambassador of Charles V at Rome, met Ignatius there. Esteeming Ignatius and the Jesuits when Vega was appointed viceroy of Sicily, he brought Jesuits with him. A Jesuit college was opened in Manessa, which was proved a success, and his rules and methods were afterwards copied in other colleges. He wrote the Jesuit Constitution, adopted in 1554, which created a monarchical organization of the order and stressed absolute self-denial and obedience to the Pope. You might want to underline stressed absolute self-denial and obedience to the Pope. And to the superiors in Catholic hierarchy, using the motto, and I can't even pronounce it, but cadaver, you know what that is, as if a dead body. So when they became Jesuits, any Jesuit, it's like his body is dead. He is no longer has any say over anything he does. He's directed by everything. You're going to learn a lot here about
Who's directed by everything?
the Jesuits. The person who wants to become a Jesuit, he yields his total self to the Catholic Church, to the Pope, and to the superiors.
Like me, if I wanted to be a Jesuit.
If you want to be a Jesuit, you no longer will be you. You'll be totally controlled. In other words, you have to do exactly everything they say, no matter what, because you're dead to yourself.
Okay.
That's what they're saying, what it meant. That the good Jesuit should be well disciplined as a corpse. So, what's a corpse? He no longer makes any decisions for himself, does he? That's what they mean here. But his main principle became the Jesuit motto, and again, gloriam, for the greater glory of God. That's their great motto. Okay, but now it is a dark, evil organization, as we'll see. Ignatius of Loyola formed the Jesuits as a military order. That's underlined for you already. That's why he formed it, and it will be on test, I guarantee you that. How did he form it? As a military order. So you see, it isn't religious at all. It isn't to do with like St. Francis or all those, you know. No. The Jesuits are a military order with the stated purpose of overthrowing the Reformation started by Martin Luther and restoring the temporal, political, and religious domain of the Vatican over all walks of life. So they're military, which means they'll use anything to accomplish their goals. In other words, he wanted to bring back the Dark Ages. The dominion of the Vatican and the popes as monarchs over all kings, queens, secular leaders, and the rest of humanity was, and as you notice, you want to underline this, and still is, you want to make a mark there, use your markers there, and still is the avowed mission of the Society of Jesus, and never changes. One thing about a Jesuit, if he's a Jesuit, he never will be anything else. He can't. And as you'll see when we go through their oath they take, there's no such thing as being a Jesuit and dropping out.
Or they'll kill you.
There's more than that. Yeah, that's true. They will, as we'll show, as you'll see later on. Loyola's mandate was that the end justifies the means, and any means of restoring Vatican dominion was acceptable. The next sentence you want to underline it. The mission of the Jesuits was the extermination of all heresy and all heretics. That's their goal. That's their mission. Anybody who was a heretic or their heresies, anybody who stands against the Catholic Church or the Pope is the enemy. Protestants and all other non-Catholics must be converted or eliminated, either sooner or later. The saying among the Jesuits, and they want to underline this too, the saying among the Jesuits was that it is no sin to kill a heretic. They receive what they call absolution from killing heretics. There is no sin to them for doing it. So therefore, if there's no restraint, well, they can do whatever they want when they want, kill you whenever they want. And trust me, they do all the time. You just don't know. This murderous justification apparently became their creed. They demand absolute, unquestioning obedience from their members to achieve the fourth and highest vow of initiation and thereby be initiated into the actively evil pyramid top level. A Jesuit must be loyal member for 35 years.
So they start them out young.
Oh, well, of course they do.
Like 16, maybe.
Younger than that.
15.
Younger than that. Not younger. They groom, they got to understand how they pick their members. They look for the brightest and the best. And whatever age, and it's a very young age, they pick out the brightest and the best. And then they go to special schools, special training, everything their whole life. So some of the top universities in the world are all Jesuit run. People don't realize it. And we call them Illuminati schools. I almost went to one. I was actually admitted because I had a 4.0 average in business. Babson Institute in Boston is one of them. Well, I didn't know at the time, no, none of this, but I applied and I was accepted. All I had to do was one course in calculus I had to buy. And because of being a family at that time and lack of money, I didn't go, but if I had, I wouldn't be here today, I'll tell you that. I'd have been in something else for sure. But anyhow, as a military order, they fought many open political wars with European kings, queens, and statesmen. Their favorite tool against such power was assassination. You might want to underline that. Their favorite tool the third one, two, three, fourth one down.
Okay, here it is. Got it.
Favorite tool against such power was assassination. They assassinate the leaders. Because of their small numbers, they became experts in poisoning and well-known methods of assassination. They were even connected with the Borgias, and as in Lucretia Borgia. They were evil people too.
What is that?
Huh?
What is in the Lucrezia Borgia?
Borgia.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, that's a person who was evil. The Borgias were evil, evil rulers. You have to look up history. Go back and look it up. Lucretia Borgia was especially evil and did horrendous things. In those days, most everybody had a confessor. The Jesuits deliberately sought these roles and came to dominate the confessor position. It's already there. This is how the Jesuits got their power, and this is how they control the world. And they still do. It is not never stopped in European society. In that role, they were able to use the intelligence they gathered from their political, social, and business victims to gain the advantage in politics, business, and education. Now, where did the idea of confessionals come from? No. Where did the first idea of confessionals come from?
The mother
Where?
child religion.
Yeah, it's Semiramis, right.
Semiramis.
That false religion, and they used their priests did the same thing. That's where this was all first used. So the Catholic Church and the Jesuits took that wonderful system of evil and employed it in a great way. The confessor spies use the information and position coupled with blackmail, bribery, intimidation to seek advantage for the Vatican in every endeavor. And of course, as you'll see, I'm put it in black here. The Jesuit intelligence apparatus is unequal on the planet. There is no government, there's nothing anywhere in the world can be equal to their spy networks. It is massively evil, but it is well-oiled machine. And nothing on earth can compare with it. Because they're into every area of life. Every government, every institution, every Bible college in America, every Bible college in the world has Jesuit infiltrators in it. And many Bible schools have Jesuit infiltrators in it. I'm not a Jesuit, you're safe. But
So what if you came across one of these characters?
You wouldn't know it anyhow.
I know, but what if you did know?
You wouldn't know. And if you try to expose them, you're dead. I guarantee you, you'll be dead so fast make your head spin. But you'll never know it. Because as we read on, you'll find out why. They were in place before we even ever dreamed of such an enterprise. Their missionaries carried out this intelligence gathering on throughout the world. When Columbus opened up the frontier, no one has ever outdone them. Remember, you probably don't know about history this much either. The Medici in Italy, in Venice, they were a powerful banking family. And they controlled most of all the financial banking at that time. Medici. They were Jesuit back. And because guess where they got their money, where they got their power from? They took care of the Pope's money. And so they got access to everything in the world, all the trade in the world at that time. Medici. And of course there was all, and they had spies. Oh, they had a fantastic spy network, the Medici. And it was all because the Pope, the Jesuits were all wonderful things going on there. Not really. Here we have again. This is one of the secrets of the Jesuit Vatican control of much of the world.
Has anyone ever got out of it alive?
No, not really. Nobody ever has, we know. Well, they may have, I don't know. If they do, they'll be dead before long. Oh, wait till you're jumping the gun here. Don't worry, we'll get to it all this. So anyhow, how did the Jesuits control the world? Tell me.
By their spy network. And by their
and how do they,
confessions.
the confessional. The confessions. That's how they control everything, because they get the kings and everything and being their prefer. In other words, a Jesuit will be a priest of sorts. He can be that too, and he will be their private confessor. So they go in and tell, and they tell him everything, and of course he passes it on to the spy network. Oh, and then they turn around, and then there'll be somebody show up and say to the king or whoever, the governor, whatever, you know, we'd like you to do this. Oh, I never do that. Well, you know, all this secret sex stuff you got going on, and they'll list it all out. We're going to expose that if you don't do what we want you to do. So they do it. They do it. And whatever it was that came out of the confession. Oh, that you had so and so murdered, didn't you? So you could be in power. Don't want that to be known, do you? No. Well, there you go. The other very successful and critical tactic they employed was to infiltrate all of their enemies. Okay? Opposing religions, enemy political structures, business, media, education, both domestic and foreign, were infiltrated by Jesuit missionaries and their unidentifiable junior Jesuits. Okay, you have Jesuit priests, but now you got what they call junior Jesuits, or people who work with the Jesuits. In other words, they also know how to use the bribe. You know, well, you're the cupbearer for the king. Here, if you get information for us, we'll give you X amount of coins. Okay, so sure, and then that's one of their little tricks. These secular followers were all too willing to accept Jesuits' favors and position in exchange for selling their countries and their souls to the Vatican. Of course, we're going to give you money. Well, we're going to make you a governor after this. Okay, sure. I'll do it. After 250 years of bloody Jesuit instigated massacres of Protestants, the bloody Jesuit Inquisition. Remember the Inquisition? Now, y'all know about that, right? You don't know about that. Boy, have you got a history lesson to learn. During the Dark Ages, the Inquisition, where they murdered people who didn't believe in the Catholic system. Right? No, didn't know that, huh? Okay, well you need to again.
Where's that on in here?
You're on the next to the bottom of the page. You're jumping all over.
Right here?
Follow me.
I am, but
It says after 250 years.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got it.
Inquisitions, okay.
Right. The bloody Jesuit Inquisition, some estimate in the Inquisition all over Europe, especially France, they murdered millions of people who refused to follow the Catholic system and refused, the Pope refused to convert back to Catholicism and all that. And they used torture, they used all kinds of wicked things, and they murdered an estimated toll of 60 million human beings. To make Hitler look like an amateur compared to what they did. This is during the Inquisition. 60 million. And resulting wars with Europe monarchs and statesmen. See, not only did they murder them, but they also got governments to fight governments for them. You had the Pope's armies, and you had the Pope's countries that would go fight Protestant nations and things. So there you go. They made Hitler look like a choir boy compared to what they did, what they've done. This consolidated Jesuit control over the Vatican itself marked a new phase in the ongoing battle against Protestantism and other non-Catholic heretics of the world at large. Turn the page, or go to the, you got the back picture. They realized that the most effective and efficient method of seizing control of society was by their already useful tactic of infiltration, but this time in secret. They did it secretly. The instrument of that infiltration would be the many secret societies which they targeted and assumed control of. The international nature of the Masonic Brotherhood, you know what the Masons are, right? and Masons are not Christian, no, and they you know, when you say, well, Washington was a Mason. Well, understand, when Washington was a Mason, the Masonic order was not what it is today. Back then, it was for making Bible schools and promoting the gospel, and they just had used it that, but it was infiltrated and turned into what it is today. It wasn't that way when Washington was in it. Made them an ideal tool for using its members to advance Jesuit goals. Publicly, the Vatican and the Masons were enemies. So publicly, it's like this. John and I are going to fight all the time, but behind the scenes, we're buddies and carrying out a plan. We want you to believe that we're enemies. So we can sneak up on you and you won't even know it. Okay? That's exactly what they did. But Tupper Saucy, that's another one you can read on if you want to, found evidence linking them to John Eric Phelps' notes that Adam Weisenhumpf, who was he, founder of the Bavarian Masonry, was a Jesuit agent. Oh, and also he was also the instigator or the beginning of the Illuminati, Weisenhumpf. But he was a Freemason Jesuit agent. Okay. What else is new, right? Ever hear of the Knights of Milan? Malta, excuse me, not Milan, Malta, Knights of Malta.
Yeah.
They're current and they operate within the Catholic Church today, to this very day. They were formerly Knights Templar. They were the former Knights Templar. And the premier secret society of the Vatican these days. So it's a secret society within the Vatican these days. And guess who runs it? The what? Jesuits. These are all Jesuit control things, but they are subservient to the Jesuit general. So the Jesuits run these things. Okay, and many of American and the Western world powers elite are Knights of Malta. Look on their, you know, on all the things they're involved with, and if they say Knights of Malta, you know that they're being controlled by the Jesuits. They're members of that, so they're going to be Jesuit controlled. Automatically, no.
Or Knights Templar?
No, that Knights Templar are gone.
Okay.
They are
so
Knights
now
of
it's called Knights of Malta.
Malta, but it's the same. But they're right. They just shifted over because Templars are gone. Also, you have Knights of Columbus. You know that one? You hear about that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And, well, that's Jesuit control too. All of them. Only once they spread their influence through the secret societies worldwide and coordinate with the English roundtables to impose a worldwide network of control. The whole phenomenon evolved into what we know today as the NWO, New World Order. NWO. You know what that is, right? New World Order. Anybody wants to see it? There it is. Now, and what the elite controlled press so distinguishingly refers to as globalism, as if it were something to be desired. The globalists have their nicknames, but their agenda is one and the same. It is the total control of this planet, with Jesuit overlords lurk in the background pulling all the important strings. Okay, now you don't have this. I have something I want to show. I'm going to have to write it out for you so you can see it. This part of it. I will show you. Here is these organizations. I don't have this copy for you. It's called the Round Table. You might hear about it. These are all these organizations it talks about. Council of Foreign Relations, United Nations, the Bilderberger Group, Club of Rome, Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Trilateral Commission. These are what rule our country. This is what rules everything in the world. And they're all connected back to this here. It's called the Round Table. probably, next time I'll have this print up, put it in the book to show what they are. And they're all connected. You have an, of course, America is the center of most of this stuff. And I have to read this real hard. Environmental, I can't even say it because it's so badly done here. International Kingdom themselves, I don't know, I won't get into that. But anyhow, those are all connected. Now, here's the unique thing about this. They all have an agenda, and they're all connected, but not directly connected. What one does, the other doesn't necessarily know exactly if everything is going on the other one's doing, but they all have the same function. They all have the same function, as we'll get to in a moment. Now, now that we've finished Ignatius, there. Now, if you'll just open up, and you're going to see this one. The Jesuit and Military Religious Order of the Roman Catholic Church. There it is. And you see that seal there? That's the seal of the High Priest of Pergamus. That's the Pergamus seal. That's what it really is. Because when that area of Turkey, which Pergamus, where the seat of Satan is, was conquered by Rome, the high priest there, to save his neck, abdicated his throne to the Caesars, or to the emperor. The emperor took that and accepted that, and ultimately, as we know, the emperors became the popes. That's where they came from. And that seal carries right to this day. The Pope carries that, and that is the seal of the High Priest of Babylon. So when the Antichrist appears on the scene, he will hail from Pergamus at some point. And at some point, the false prophet, which I believe will be a pope, will take that authority that he has here and give it to the Antichrist. That gives the Antichrist the satanic authority to rule. And then you have the black book of the Kabbalah will be brought and given to him, and that contains all the evil curses and all this other stuff, the esoteric knowledge to rule and reign. Now, this here is the oath that they actually take, the Jesuits take. And we're not going to read through every part of it, but we're going to pick out some important parts for you to go through. You need to read this on your own. Okay. I'm going to see, because I'm just picking out some of the important parts. What they do, and where it says superior, see on the second paragraph down. Stay on. No, you're lost already.
No, the second paragraph down, right here.
Oh, okay.
There's two here if you want.
You're on the wrong page.
Okay, one here.
That's right. Stay on page because you're going to be lost.
You said go to the oath, so I got to fix that.
Right. Yeah, that's right. There we go. So that page right there. That's where I want you. This is what we'll read this little part right here. My son, hereafter you have been taught to act the dissembler among Roman Catholics, to be Roman Catholic, to be a spy even among your own brethren. See, they spy on one another too. To believe no man, to trust no man, among the reformers, to be a reformer. So when they go out, when they're sent out, the bottom oath is, and as you get all here, is to go destroy these things, to be a dissembler. Destroy, destruct. So they'll be sent, and they'll be reformers. They'll be like the reformers. Among the Huguenots, to be a Huguenot. Among the Calvinists, to be a Calvinist. Among the Protestants, generally to be a Protestant. To obtain their confidence. That's why you'll never know who they are. And it takes a lot to discern one. I've run into a couple in my life. To seek even to preach from the pulpits. And to denounce with all the vehemency in your nature our holy religion and the Pope. So just because they get up there and preach against the Pope and the Catholic Church, and there's lots of people out there that do that, they really lay it on hard, right? Carpe diem, seize the day. Well, that's what they do. They seize the day. Amen. And it goes on to say, and even to descend so low as to become a Jew among the Jews. They think they're the lowest on earth. That you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope. So they'll be everything to everybody, and you'll never know it. That's their plan. That's the plan. It's like a spy. A spy pretends to be what he isn't, so he can get information to destroy those he's after. And of course, the next paragraph down, the very last end of that, it says, the end justifies the means. That's their motto. The end justifies the means. If it means killing somebody and gets us done, good, do it. Okay. And you might want to just underline that, the end justifies the means. When I redo this, I will do all this again. The next paragraph down.
Is there anything else you want us to
No, you don't need to read all through it. Next paragraph down, the first part of this says, you have been taught your duty as a spy to gather all statistics. You can underline that. So they're taught as spies. And they go through intense training programs. They send them through all kinds of special schools, some of the best in the world, to train them this stuff. And of course, the very last part of that paragraph, it says, for the Pope's sake, whose servants you are unto what? Death. You're the Pope's servant unto death. There is no way out except death, period. Now you turn the page. And you'll see, let's see, my page, next one, it says, the instruments and executioner as directed by your superiors. It might be in that, it's in that paragraph. You'll have to say down, it says, you must serve the proper time as the instrument and executioner as directed by your superiors. So you see they are to serve as executioners as they're directed. For no one can command here who has not consecrated his labors with the blood of the heretics. You all underline that too. So they can't be leaders in their own group unless they've killed heretics. They have to have done it. And it shows where that all comes from. The next page you can read. I mean, you can read all that stuff, and that's their extreme oath. That's what they do. They take it with a dagger at their hearts, and when it's all done, they take and make their own blood and sign. They cut it and they sign with the dagger. If we turn the page, we want to go down where it says, "I furthermore promise." You're too far.
Should turn the page. So.
Yeah, well, I'm turning my. Yeah, right. And
Here.
You guys are different, right? I keep forgetting you.
I furthermore promise.
That whole thing, we're going to read it, and you want to just underline it or make a mark around whatever. This is what they promise. This is what they promise. I furthermore promise to declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage war, relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, liberals, as I am directed to do, to expurgate and exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, that I will spare neither age, sex, condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up their stomachs and wombs from their women, crush the infants' heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race. That when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poison cup, the strangulation cord, the steel of the poniard, and the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition of life, in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do so by any agent of the Pope or Superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. That's the oath they take. Abraham Lincoln was killed by who? Who killed Abraham Lincoln? Don't tell me you don't remember that one. John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth. Did you know that? You didn't know that.
Well, you know, gotta just remember.
And guess what John Wilkes Booth was? A Catholic, Jesuit. undercover guy, and he was part of it. You know, John Wilkes Booth didn't die. Did you know that? Oh, there's a whole story about what happened here. Oh no, he didn't die. He wasn't killed. Oh, he escaped, got away, and he actually died with the consumption. And years later, but there's a movie about it, a whole story. Yeah, people don't know that. But anyhow, he was part of this thing. Okay, now the next chart, Vix. So you see, that's the oath they take. So you see, there's no good thing in them.
So if someone said they were a Catholic Jew, this would be it.
If they were what?
Catholic Jew.
Well, they won't last long. I mean, it's an oxymoron to them. Jews are the lowest on the earth. That's why they're out to kill them all, get rid of them all. And of course, it would be, because when you see where this all comes from, as you know. Okay, the next down. It's in the second line of the first sentence. I now receive. I have subscribed my name written in my own blood.
You want us to really?
Yeah, you might want to. They're written in their own blood. Testimony thereof. And should I? Okay, now this is another one. And should I prove false or weaken in my determination? Okay, right there. This is what's going to happen. You don't have to underline the rest until we get to the bottom. May my brethren and fellow soldiers of the militia of the Pope cut off my hands and my feet and my throat from ear to ear, my belly opened and sulphur burned therein, and all the punishment that can be inflicted upon me on the earth, and the last part you want to underline, and my soul be tortured by demons in eternal hell forever.
Why would someone go to this oath?
Because they do. Thousands of them.
But do they get into it unknowingly, like different
No,
levels, or they know?
no. You can't take the oath until you know what you're doing.
Oh,
Okay, and you can turn the page, and there's the rest of it you'll have to read on your own, and I suggest you do that one. And there's a whole bunch of questions that are asked them. And then when it's done, they cut and then they sign it in blood. So you see, they know what to do. Now we go to the next one. The Oath of the Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, Rhodes Scholars, is based upon the Oath of the Jesuits. We won't read it all, but it's basically almost word for word. Turn the page. Over here, Knights, big
Knights of
letters.
Columbus?
Right.
Okay.
Knights of Columbus.
You remember, if you tell me to turn page, I'm going to.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying turn, but I have to turn. You guys don't, right?
Okay.
Sorry about
I know,
that.
that's where I'm getting lost, because you're turning pages.
Yeah, I know. It's my fault. Sorry.
It's all your fault.
You can throw stones at me. I know. And I'm not a Jesuit. I won't try to kill you in your sleep. Just when you're awake. I mean, I won't do that. So anyhow, we're going to turn the page, and also, as you see, they take the exact same oath that the Jesuits take on the next.
You mean the Knights of Columbia and the
Knights of Columbus, not
Yeah.
Columbia, Columbus. They all take the same oath. Knights of Columbus, Knights of Milan, and Rhodes Scholars. You hear a lot about Rhodes Scholars. Oh, they're important people. Yeah, sure they are. So when you get down there, it says, I do further promise, and that's the same oath, same thing all the way through. We don't even bother reading it. Now we go to the oath administered to the Illuminati. It's based upon the oath of the Jesuits. Here's another important thing. So now we have the Illuminati. And have you heard about the Illuminati? Do you know what the Illuminati is? Okay, the Illuminati. That's what rules the country, basically. Rules everything. Now, if you go down to where it says, in the name of the Son crucified.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to underline this. The pentagram, the illuminized man swear to break the bonds which still bind you to your father, mother, brother, sister, wife, relatives, friends, mistresses, kings, chiefs, benefactors. Benefactors. It's all. You're on the wrong page.
I send over?
No, it's right here.
What does that mean?
It's right here.
Oh, okay.
And we're down into here. I'll start again on that one. It says, in the name of the Son of the crucified, There you go, that paragraph. The pentagram, you know what the pentagram is, right? Everybody know what a pentagram is? Right? Okay, you know what a pentagram is, and that's the demonic symbol of Satan. The Illuminized man swear to break the bonds which still bind you to your father, mother, brother, sister, wife, relatives, friends, mistresses, kings, chiefs, benefactors, and all persons to whomsoever you may have promised faith, obedience, and service. You can underline all that. Now we drop down.
So does that mean they have to break, they don't have any contact with their families?
They break, what's it say
Or does
there?
that mean they,
The band, the binding.
yeah,
It
but
doesn't
then
mean,
it says they gotta dwell in another place other than which they were born.
it could be. You gotta understand, the Illuminati, when you take this oath, you're cutting yourself off from everything but Satan. Or, you know, Luciferian doctrine. So that means, yeah, you still might be in the family, but you don't, you're not there for their benefit. And you don't listen to anything they gotta say, because you're now under a new master. And you might be allowed to be kept there to hide you. Secret, because this one here carries a lot of secret stuff. Here we get down to the 2 sentences down. For this moment, you are free from the so-called oath to country and laws. I want to underline that.
Where is this now?
There's 2 lines down,
From this moment. Okay,
2
gotcha.
sentences down.
Gotcha.
And you're freed. So when you take that oath, you're freed from everything. Okay. And you can read the rest of that. No, we go to now, down to what do I get into? The Trinity, well, you don't have to put this down. But the Trinity of Illuminism is Kabbalistic, Kabbalah. And what's the foundation of the Kabbalah? Esoteric knowledge, hidden, fallen angel, Luciferian knowledge. And Gnosticism, the Father and the generating the fire, the Holy Spirit, the Great Mother Nature, reproducing all things, the Son of Manifestation, the virtual fluid and astral light of Illuminism. And what's that Illuminism light? Lucifer, Satan's garbage. Now, if you continue down, you'll see where it says Kabbalistic. Well, we already know. You don't have to really do that. It says, the next sentence down says, like rays from a hidden sun. Find that? Like rays from a hidden sun. You have to turn the page. Now you have to turn the page. There we go. It's on the back page. There we go. Okay. And that,
Like rays from the
like rays from the hidden sun. You'll find it. It's 2 or 3 lines down, 4 lines down. See 3. That's the 5th line down. Like rays from the hidden sun, these groups are apparently divergent and detached. Divergent and detached. Divergent and detached. Now this comes in. Now you begin to see this. I gotta take this out. So here we have these groups. They're all divergent and detached, right? You see them on the chart. Okay? They're all different, detached, but they're connected. In a way, they're connected.
And that's the pin. That's it's shaped kind of.
And that would be what? Oh, what's that called? The pentagram.
Pentagram.
See? The pentagram. It's all set up there. Say 10. Okay, read on. So you want to underline these things that we're going over here. Groups are apparently divergent and detached, but in reality all issue from the same central body. See? All the same central body. The system is seen to be insidious and secret dissemination of ideas orientating and breaking down all barriers of family, religion, morality, nationality, and all self-intuitive thought, always under the cloak of a new and more modern religion, new thought, new morality, a new heaven and new earth, until it evolves a gigantic robot merely answering to the will and commands of a secret master mind. And that secret mastermind is Luciferian doctrine. So this is all the stuff that's happening right before your eyes every day in newspapers and everywhere. You can radios, wherever. It's right there before your eyes because they're doing it day in and day out now. Even more so. New thought, new religion, new morality. We have a new morality now. We have a new religions now. We have new thought now. There's nothing new to it, basically. But you see where it's all coming from? And this is all in their stuff. Okay, and then we drop down where it says Kabbalistic sun. See that? You want to underline that. Kabbalistic sun. Should be the next, at the end of the next sentence. Kabbalistic, Kabbalah, Kabbalistic sun. And that's important because they say this is called regeneration by the Illuminati. It is, in truth, individual death and disintegration, followed by a resurgence of negative light bearers of this Kabbalistic dark sun, whose Luciferian grand plan is world domination. Oh, gee, where do we get that from? Where does this grand plan come from? Right, but where did it come from? Where did it come from? I keep asking.
Satan, Lucifer.
Yeah.
Semiramis.
Oh, gee, you finally got it. The Luciferian doctrine she brought out. It was given to her by the fallen angels, and she's the one who put it in play in the earth. So that was it. Everything goes, that's why we said, everything goes back to Semiramis. All this evil comes right from there. And it's filtered right on down through, boom, and I just showed you how it got to that book. It's all in there. So there you go. There you go.
So where it says the next
Well, go ahead, ask
about
your
the
question.
Jewish thing.
The
So it talks
Gnosticism,
about
right.
the-
Right, Gnosticism began where? Where did Gnosticism begin? We showed
That
that.
was the theosophy thing, wasn't
No, that's the opposite. Where's Gnosticism begin? Same place. Well, no, it didn't say. Theosophy is the Luciferian doctrine coming down from Semiramis to Helen Blavatsky, which we haven't studied yet, but that's where it comes from. But in those days, it wasn't called theosophy, and who brought that to Philo?
it? Theosophy?
Yeah, theosophy and Gnosticism. Who brought it to Philo? Simon Magus. Simon Magus, remember, he started the Simonites. He's the one who took this Stoic Gnosticism and infused it with his brand of his Christian thing, because he wanted the power to what? What did
Rule the world.
No.
They want the power
Yeah, you got it. To be able to give the Holy Spirit as he chose, whenever he wanted to, and he'd have the power to do it. That's what he wanted.
Like Simon.
That's
Like
right.
Simon.
Simon Magus. And he's
He's
the
the
one.
one who wanted to buy the Holy Spirit.
Right.
So,
You need to read it and
yeah, I
study
did.
it.
I'm trying to follow you, kind of.
Yeah, because we already gone over this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be on test. I got it right now. Be on test. Yeah. So Simon Magus brought it to Philo, and but the Gnosticism, as it says here, started before. Well, of course it did, because he got set. The idea came from the Stoics, and it came from the BC era, before Christ. And so he took that and put it into his idea of this Gnostic idea of his own Christian religion, or his own religion, and spread it all over the world. So he goes to Philo. Philo presents it to him. Philo buys it and puts it in his manuscript. The stuff about it, in his whole philosophy in there, and that passes down. Next one we have, it picks it up as Origen. Well, Clement, and then Origen. And then Origen wrote his Hexapla, which you haven't studied that yet. wrote the Hexapla, which was his manuscript all messed up. And then that passes on down to Westcott and Hort. But along the way, Westcott and Hort did a lot of research, and they took it from what we're getting into. Now that we just passed, and you have to read the rest of this, all this stuff. Now we go to the next page, and you find what do we find? Turn the page. What do we find? Oh, the Vulgate. The Vulgate. So the Catholic. So again, with all this influence and everything, and the Jesuits ruling everything, and everybody going crazy with everything. Boom, boom, boom. Now comes the Vulgate. And it's all listed here for you. In the late 4th century Latin translation of the Bible that became during the 16th century, the Catholic Church officially promulgated Latin version of the Bible. This is and remember, Catholics were always had their masses in Latin. You remember and hearing about that at least? Were any of you Catholics? No. Okay, so well, okay, you wouldn't understand, but they did all of their masses in Latin, so the common people wouldn't know what they were saying, because most of them didn't know Latin. So they had to go to the priest and ask the priest what everything meant, and the priest would tell them what they wanted to know. And since all those priests were what? Order were they of? What were the order? What was their priestly order? Many of them were Jesuits. Yeah, the Jesuits. The Pope today in the Vatican, what's his order? You know what his order is? Jesuit. He's a Jesuit. Why do you think he's embraced all the stuff that, see, when he gets the Catholic Church going nuts about? You know, all the evil he's about. You know the first thing he did when he became Pope? This is weird. He made an agreement with the Wicked Church.
Yeah, they do it fit.
Hmm?
They do it fit.
Yeah, of course. And also he's backed abortion, he's backed sodomy, he's backed every other thing. And he's a false prophet, but he's a Jesuit. And he rules, so now you have a Jesuit ruling the whole Catholic system worldwide. Over a billion Catholics, he rules. And he's a Jesuit. Who does he take his orders from? Whoever the Jesuit general is. And this guy was put there purposely by the Jesuits. Translation was largely the work of Saint Jerome, who in 382 AD was commissioned by Pope Damasus I to revise the Old Latin, collection of biblical texts in the Latin that is used by the Church. So Saint Jerome, and you need to know this, and the year he did it. Saint Jerome is the one who wrote the Vulgate. The Catholic Church affirmed the Vulgate in its original Latin Bible at the Council of Trent in 1545 through 1603 AD. So you need to know that. That's why it's underlined. But now here's the real kicker. In 1598, edition of the Sixto Clementine Vulgate was the official Bible of the Catholic Church until 2001. This was their official Bible. When the Nova Vulgate was issued and was declared as the official Bible of the Catholic Church. From 1598 until 2001, it was the official Bible. So still in play. Now if you turn the page, so the Vulgate. Now we have the Douay-Rheims Bible. Douay-Rheims Bible announced and pronounced in Douay-Rheims, also known as the Rheims-Douay Bible or Douay Bible, was abbreviated DR or DV. So if you see a DR or DV, you know it's a Douay-Rheims Bible, because I don't have any of those. Is a translation of the Bible from the Old Latin into English made by members of the English College. Douay is in the service of the Catholic Church. The New Testament portion was published in Rheims. The purpose of the version, both text and notes, was to uphold the Catholic tradition. That's the reason it was written. You need to know that when it's already underlined for you. In the face of the Protestant Reformation. Gee, who do you think probably had something to do with that English college that wrote this thing? What order would be in charge of that? Jesuits. Of course it's Jesuits. What do they set up? Colleges and Bible and schools all over the world. That was one of them. Which was up to, okay. In the face of Protestant Reformation, which up till then had overwhelmingly dominated Elizabethan religion in academic debate. Marginal notes took up the bulk of the volumes and had a strong polemic and patristic character, artistic character. Polemic. What's polemic? What's polemic? Just read down there. That's a word you have to know, by the way, the definition of. Is continuous rhetoric that is intended to support its position by aggressive claims and undermining the opposition's position. Polemics are most seen in arguments about controversial topics. We have polemic arguments today in Congress every day, all day long, and in the media every day and all day long, and the whole leftist movement, socialist movement, Nazi or communist movement is all based in polemics. The minute you stand up and challenge them, oh, you're what? You're racist. You're Islamic phobia. All this other garbage. That is a polemic argument because they have no foundation to debate the issues because they don't have any, and they don't even know them.
They just argue.
Right? But that works. If every time everything you try to say, and I say, and I say, you're prejudiced, you're prejudiced, you're prejudiced, you're prejudiced. No matter what you say, oh, you're prejudiced. Oh, that's because they're prejudiced. That kind of stops free speech because because they don't have anything else. So they use that polemic argument. Patristic Christianity. Patristic. Remember we studied this? The study of early Christian writers who are designated Christian fathers. So there you go.
Who wants to know that too?
Well, you have to know the definition of that. It's in your definitions. So now you have 2 Bibles and 2 manuscripts. Okay, now one thing I failed here, and I need to go look it up, is when that was written.
What? It's Douay?
Yeah, Douay, Reims. That's French. That's the city.
Douay.
And the Vulgate we know was written in 382 by Jerome. So we have those 2 Bibles written in their manuscripts, is what they are. Those 2. And I will put this down. Oh, for goodness. Vulgate and Douay.
That's a Bible, right?
Those are Bibles, but they're manuscripts. That's what we're talking about. Let's see, you said Ramus on H. H-E-I-M-S. Okay, these are what we call Bibles, but they're also manuscripts. The Bibles, but they were Catholic. They were Catholic Bibles. Manuscripts. And what's important about them is because now you see how this all came together to this point, right? The Jesuits are behind all this, the Jesuits and all that wickedness and all their oaths and everything. It brings us, now you go back to your little chart you want to look at all the time. Go back to that page. Remember? There we go. One more. It's in the very front. This page right here. It's in the, no. It's you got to go tabs. You're way up. It's should be
First, way first. Like almost in the clear.
There you go.
The yellow
Right there. You got it.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. Now we see origin and Westcott and Hort. Well, this should go in between here because Westcott and Hort did most of their research based on the manuscripts of these two manuscripts. And when we get into manuscripts, they are the Sinaiticus and the Vaticanus. Those are the manuscripts, that's what they were titled. But anyhow, that's where that would go. And now you see, so you see how all this fits together now? Westcott and Hort brought that in there. And Blavatsky and all their wickedness. Because Westcott and Hort were spiritualists as well.
So it was before Westcott and Hort. So
It
it
would
would
be
be somewhere in that.
date-wise, would be right in that between Origin and them. I didn't put it in there.
So it'd be like what, 1800s or something?
No, 15. Actually, you have the Vulgate written by Jerome in what year?
15.
What year?
45.
What year? When? Who wrote the Vulgate? Waiting. Who wrote the Vulgate?
Catholic Church.
The Catholic Church stood up and wrote
No,
it.
who was it? I mean, I don't know.
Read it, it's right in front of you.
Well, I got it right here, and I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
Pope.
Second paragraph on that page. Read it.
Jerome.
What year? 382. That's when it was written. It was after.
The translation was largely the war.
See, right there. And we'll get into that. What we're doing good. So those are the two Bibles of the Catholic Church. And then it leads right down as we're going. That's why they're in here, and that's the whole thing about the Jesuits and how they got involved in this and how they rule everything and how they've contaminated everything with their stuff. Okay, now the next page is the Apocrypha. You should see the Apocrypha.
No.
Okay, yours is different because.
So I think I've got it in here. Though.
Yeah, it's in there, but it's in. I have it. I've changed the others. I don't think yours was changed. You got to go to the back of the book on yours.
I think it was.
Well, maybe it's.
Is that it?
No. It says Apocrypha. This is the page. It looks like. Got to read it. The Apocrypha.
Okay, here it is.
There you go.
But I got this guy.
Yeah. See, you need to switch those around. That's a mistake.
Okay.
Because I've changed it in the order. Now he needs to go after that. There you go. Small change. We're online. We're online.
Okay, good.
The Apocrypha. The Apocrypha refers to a set of texts included in the Latin Vulgate and Septuagint, but not in the Hebrew Bible. The Apocrypha is pseudepigraphia. That's a word you have to learn what it means. Pseudepigraphia. Also, well, it talks about it otherwise. Or a falsely attributed works. In other words, what pseudepigraphia is, they don't know who the real writer was. So any work that says pseudepigraphia means you're not sure of the author. And they say sometimes, so in other words, let's say you wrote a book, Miss Taylor, and so I take the book, and you didn't put your, well, and so then I put my name on it, even though it's your book. Well, then, and it's found out that they don't know, so someone else, Mr. John, doesn't know who the author is. So, and they know that I'm not the author, even though my name's on it, or it's attributed to me as writing your book. So then it's a falsely attributed work, or pseudepigraphia.
So it'd be like unknown author.
Right, unknown author, but somebody else claims to be the author, but that's not necessarily
Like you
true.
wrote it, and I'm claiming to write it.
Yeah, right. Saying and all that. Of course, that's plagiarism these days, but you know, that's the big term they all use. In general use, the word apocrypha came to mean false, spurious, bad, or heretical. This meaning also appears in Origen's prologue in his commentary on Song of Songs. Truth is, some of the books contained in Apocrypha are inspired works. The book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, and the book of Jubilee were considered for the first 500 years inspired and contained in the biblical canon of the early church. For 500 years, those three books were counted as just like the one you have sitting in front of you, the Bible you have in front of you. It was taught and included with it. Jesus studied from it, so did his two brothers, James and Jude, and Peter read from it too. They were all taught as children. Some reasons why the Apocrypha is not inspired. So the other books are probably not inspired. Okay? The Roman Catholic Church did not officially canonize the Apocrypha until the Council of Trent in 1546 AD. So that's already marked out for you. This was in part because the Apocrypha contained material which supported certain Catholic doctrines such as purgatory, praying for the dead, and the treasury of merit. No one of them is in the Hebrew language, which was alone used by the inspired historian and poets of the Old Testament. Not one of the writers lay any claim to inspiration. Well, if you haven't read the book of Enoch, you need to read the book of Enoch, because it is inspired and it does mention it in there. And the whole book of Enoch is praising and revealing the God of the universe and the Son. It even talks about the Son of the Son of God in there and all this. So you have to read it. And not one place in there does it speak anything negative against. It's all praise and worship and glory given to God. You have to read it. So some say, well, that's a book that's demonic. Well, have you read it? If you had, you'd know right off. It makes no. Why would it be? I mean, if you call that demonic, then I guess you better call this Bible demonic too, because there is nothing in there. I've read it. There's nothing in here that would refer to anything against God. It was all praise and worship towards God. This is the first chapter.
People say it's witchcraft, and it's
because they haven't read it. They don't know. And they're ignorant. Just because it lists about the washers, it talks about the fallen angels. Oh, that's because they're ignorant. The Bible talks about that too. Well, what do you say? The Bible's full of witchcraft then? Duh. No. The words of the blessings of Enoch wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless will be removed. Goes on to say down here, concerning the elect I said, and took up my parable concerning them, the great Holy One, the Holy Great One, will come forth from his dwelling, and the eternal God will spread upon the earth, upon Mount Sinai. Even appear, it goes on and on. It's all about it. And the book of Enoch talks about the end time, the last church. It's all part of the book of Enoch. There's a prophecies in it, written directly to us today. I mean, that's why they don't want it. But because it talks about the fallen angels and how they operated, people say, oh, it's demonic. Well, guess what? Then if that's the case, then we better take out parts of this Bible, because it does talk about the fallen angels and how they came down from heaven with women and produced giants. Gee.
that's what it is.
Yeah, gee, if that's the case, then you better throw this out too. And this has a lot more to say about that once you get into it. It talks about the Nephilim, the Anakim, and the Rephaim. It even talks more, it refers to a lot more than people realize when you study it. But when we studied Lucifer and everything is said about him, and how we found out, and how people realize in the first creation, I mean from the Bible, it talks about the first creation, about the kingdoms, the cities, and all of the stuff. And yet, most Christians don't have a clue about that. And it's all right there in the Word. There it is. So anyhow, we won't argue the point. These books were never acknowledged by the sacred scriptures by the Jewish church, and therefore were never sanctioned by our Lord. Well, again, that can't be true, because then why did Jude quote it? As a matter of fact, all right, just prove the point. People want to argue the point, let's go and take a look. Let's see if this be so. Jude says in verse 14, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the
Where are
Lord...
we going? Where are you?
Jude,
where
book
are
of
you at now?
Jude. Sorry, I go too fast. I get excited. Sorry. Excitement. In the Bible, go to the book of Jude. And since there's only one chapter, you can just go by verse, and you can say Jude 1:14. Okay, we'll do it that way. It's the last book of the Bible next to Revelation. Last book. It's okay. Take your time. Take your time. I go too fast because I've been doing it for so long. And, you know, I get ahead. You guys start slowing me down.
Get a Revelation 21. Revelation.
Jude what?
14.
Verse 14?
There's only one chapter in
Okay.
Jude.
Okay.
You can either say Jude 1:14 or Jude 14.
Okay.
Yeah, so 1:14 to help clarify the
Thank
issue.
you for clarifying that.
There we go. Helps. And you have to read the whole thing, but it says, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with tens of thousands of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and convince all that are ungodly among them of their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him. So he quotes the book of Enoch right there. Peter does too. And where's the verse? I may have to, hopefully that'll give me a little quick run here. Of course, no help, right? Peter quotes it too. I have to look that up. If you look up, just look up, can you look it up real quick?
Where?
Never mind.
What? What am I looking up?
Enoch.
Enoch what?
Just Enoch, see. There's only two quotes I would use them. See, I hope.
Where does Peter quote Enoch?
Yeah, he might.
Book of Enoch. First Enoch in Jude 14, 15.
Yeah, see, this one don't have it because it's...
Enoch and Peter and Jude. Let's see.
This one don't have it. It's okay. We'll find that one in a second.
Just let me watch yours.
Yeah. Okay,
It
now...
just gives me same thing we just looked up.
Yeah.
Before.
First, see, they
The
won't.
verse in the Bible where Peter refers to Enoch.
I have to use the other quick ones. This one.
First Peter, let's see.
First Peter, I think. Give it.
It says First Peter, Second Peter. I'm waiting for it to come.
All right. Well, anyhow, the book of Enoch, by the way, you'll find verses in the book of Enoch that Jesus quoted right out. When Jesus spoke red letter words, you'll find the exact same verses in the book of Enoch. So that meant he had to read it. They would have had to read it. And of course, as they're in their Pharisee schools, they did. They studied those
Second
things.
Peter 3, 1 and 2.
There we go. Thank you. 2 Peter 3, 1 and 2. The second epistle, beloved, I write unto you in both which I stir up
Is that it?
your pure minds and rooms. No.
I'm sorry, 3. 2 Peter 3rd chapter 1 and 2.
Nope.
Likewise, your wives be subject to your husband.
No. You're in the wrong Peter. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 1 and 2 does not say that. It may be spoken.
3. Chapter 3, 1 and 2.
I'm already in chapter 3, 1 and 2.
Okay, then that's not it then.
That's not it. I haven't got time to chase it, but there is something here about that. And of course, when you take, I haven't got, again, I don't know the exact verses, but the red letter verses Jesus quotes comes right, lines up exactly what came from Enoch. So therefore, they read it. And of course, there are a lot of books listed in the Bible. The book of Jasher is listed in the Old Testament. And there's a lot of books listed. I think there's 17 different ones. People don't even give it a second thought, but they're there. Okay. Go back to our thing here, we won't get lost in all that. Number 5. They were not allowed to place among the sacred books during the first 4 centuries of the Christian Church. They contain fabulous statements and statements which contradict not only the canonical scriptures, but they themselves. Now, some of these others do. There's no question about it. But these 3 different books do not. They are inspired. And the first church for 500 years followed it. Matter of fact, the first King James Bible printed in 1611 had the Apocrypha in the middle of it, between Old Testament and New Testament. They put it in there, and it was printed in the King James. It was taken out later on. At Laodicean Council, they took out a lot of stuff, you'll see later on. They took out a lot of books we got, they put back in finally. Okay, the Apocrypha indicates doctrines of various Bibles, such as prayers for the dead in sinless perfection. Apocrypha contains offensive material unbecoming to God authorship, which is true. In their Ecclesiasticus book, 25:19, it says, any iniquity is insignificant compared to a wife's iniquity. Okay. In Ecclesiasticus 25:24, a woman's sin had its beginning because of her we all die. Okay, we all die because of who? Was it Adam or Eve?
It was the serpent's fault.
Well, yeah, you're right. I agree that. But when it comes to who the finger goes to, and the award goes to Adam. Why?
Because he was the one who knew.
He was the head, and the sin came on mankind because of Adam's fall. Eve was deceived. She didn't know.
One man's sin.
She was, right. He was in
It was
sin.
the curse of death.
So that brought on all of us. So it wasn't the woman. Ecclesiastes 22:3. It is his grace to be the father of an undisciplined, and the birth of a daughter is a loss. Well, of course these are not scriptural. Of course these are evil things. And Ecclesiasticus is not a book that should be in anywhere. It teaches immoral practices such as lying, suicide, assassination, and magical incantations. Some of these apocryphal books do that.
This in here.
Huh?
This is in here.
What's in here?
Ecclesiastes.
No, it's not. That's
Okay. I'm just wondering where it is. We don't know. I don't know. Are you talking
I'm
about?
glad to say you don't know.
Yeah. Do you know?
Right.
Because I don't know. I mean, you
It's
know.
not in our Bible. It's in the Apocrypha. One of the books in the Apocrypha. As a matter of fact, hold your finger there and turn the page. And at the bottom of that page, on the back of your pages, on the back it'll be, it shows all the books of the Apocrypha. Herodotus 1, Herodotus 2, Tobit, Judith, additions to Esther, Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus,
Oh, thanks for letting me know.
Barak, Letter to Jeremiah, Prayers of Azariah, Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, Prayer of Manasseh, Maccabees 1, Maccabees 2. That's your Apocrypha. In a sense, Enoch, Joshua, and Jubilee are not in it. And they're not there. Manual of Disciples of the Dead Sea, Manual of Disciplines in the Dead Sea Scrolls reject the Apocrypha as inspired, as we say. The books of the Apocrypha, it's on the back of your page now, were written over a period of from 300 BC to 70 AD, mostly written in Aramaic. The lost books of Ezra and Baruch were written in Greek. Now, another thing, when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found a complete book of Enoch in it, in one of the scrolls, complete. So we know we have, there's actually 3 books of Enoch. Some of the fragments found in the Dead Sea Scrolls are the books of the Apocrypha. Are found were fragments of the book of the Giants, And the Book of Giants was written, and all it did is find fragments. I have it at home, and it's got a lot of missing parts, but the parts, the little fragments there, it tells its own story. It helps expand the story of the giants. There's so much more to the giants than people know, but it's listed in the Bible. In our Bible here, you know, we know Goliath was a giant. He was about 15 feet tall. He was about up to 15 feet tall. He had brothers and the whole thing. And Og, the kingdom of Og, which was a giant, his bed was 15 feet, I believe. And as we know, and when the Israelites defeated them and drove them out of the land, guess where they went? Well, they had contacts with the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians had something to do with the giants. The giants left the land there and were taken to Sardinia, the island of Sardinia. And the remains of those giants is still there, and there are 30,000 temples and things they built. And the residents to this day claim, some of them, they're giants, and they claim their ancestry back to them. Some of them are 9, 10 feet tall, those people. Pretty tall, I guess. Anyhow.
And that goes back to y'all's our war with wonder. They had to be giants because when they built the Tower of Babel, that was a tall building.
Yeah.
They had to be big men in order to do that.
Well, they built the pyramids, the Great Pyramid especially, and what they've all hidden from the public all along is the hieroglyphics on the inside. It's up, and I saw they did online because I was doing this study and this documentary on Netflix. Go watch it, and you'll see in there they showed the hieroglyphics and they showed the giants and what they were doing. And they had two types of giants. They had what they called the lifters. They were up to 35 feet tall, and they carried these huge blocks. Then you had the cutters, were anywhere up to about I don't know, maybe 25, 30, somewhere in that range. They were 15 feet. And then it shows humans, little tiny things running around there too. And it shows them building it. And as anyone will tell you who wants to tell you the truth, the pyramids were never made as burial mounds at all for burial. No. They were made as generators. They were actually generating. They collected and held electricity. That's what they were made for. And then they had a way to direct that electricity. And because at the time when they were built, there was water all around them. There was an underground tunnel, or rivers or tunnels went under the pyramids, and it required the water to generate this electricity from this pyramid thing. And it was covered with limestone, so it held it in there. And then they had a way to direct that. You may have seen this in movies, but also in real life too. It talks about the Egyptians knew how to use mirrors to direct light. Well, it's believed they used these mirrors and directed that energy somehow out onto machines. And it shows in the hieroglyphics machines, some kind of electronic machines they were using. It showed it, especially cutting the stones or whatever. Oh, yeah, it's all there. And in Egypt, and you go online and watch this documentary, in Egypt there is a race of people to this very day, which are called, they carry the knowledge, they say they're, I forget their term, they carry the knowledge. In other words, they pass it down from generation to generation, the history of all this. And so they had the guy on there who was very old, but he's the sage of the time with all this, and he explained all this. He said what it was, and he said underneath the Sphinx is a generating station down there. They used it to generate. And because the limestone's long gone now, but they still generate electricity. And this is a proven fact, and they talked about this. Turn of the century, there was a, late 1800s, there was and when you could still go, now they won't even let you near those pyramids, they got them all blocked off, But there was an archaeologist who went with an Arab guy, and he went to the top of the Great Pyramid. And he was proving, he was testing, he thought, this thing still works. So he took a wine bottle, he put water in it and wrapped it in newspaper and held it over his head like this. And within a few minutes it began to spark and arc electricity out of it. Well, the Arab guy thought he was practicing witchcraft, and he goes and grabs the bottle. When he did, it knocked him out colder than a mackerel. He got an electrical charge. Zap, big one. Knocked him out. So it proved the point that's what they were generating electricity. But because the limestone's gone, they just don't hold it no more. But you know, you see they show in there and all these tunnels and things in here, and they never know what they were. But no, there was never any dead mummies or anything found in those things, because they weren't made for that. And they did find, though, the mastabas, what they call mastabas, and they were like the ziggurats, and they were tombs around them. They were tombs, but anyhow. So back to the story, not there. So anyhow, we found a fragment of the Book of Giants, a writing associated with Enoch's cycle, relating to the deeds of the giants who were born of the union of the sons of God and human women. Genesis 6, 1 through 4. So there you go. It's in the Bible. Genesis 6, 1 through 4 tells you this. It is known from fragments found in the Quran that this was written before 100 BCE. Now, do you know what BCE stands for? Before Common Era. We call it before Christ, but I don't know why they confuse it. But they say before Common Era. The Apocrypha is a selection of books which were published in the original 1611 King James Bible. These apocryphal books were positioned between the Old and New Testament, and also contained maps and genealogies as well. The Apocrypha was part of the King James for 274 years until it was removed in 1885. So it was contained. A portion of these books were called Deuteroconical books by some entities such as the Catholic Church. And of course, canon means laws. So I guess many claim the Apocrypha should never have been included in the first place, raising doubt about its validity and believing it was not God-inspired. For instance, a reference about magic seems inconsistent with the rest of the Bible. Tobit, chapter 6, verses 5 through 8, and that's one of the books of the Apocrypha, talks about magical incantations. Well, of course that would be right. Others believe it is valid and it should never have been removed, that it was considered part of the Bible for nearly 2,000 years before it was recently removed a little more than 100 years ago. Some say it was removed because of not finding the books in the original Hebrew manuscripts. Others claim it wasn't removed by the church, but by printers to cut costs in distributing Bibles in the United States. Well, that could be due. Both sides tend to cite the same verses that warn against adding or subtracting from the Bible, as we know, Revelation 22:18. The word Apocrypha means hidden. Fragments of the Dead Sea Scroll date back to before 70 AD, which contain parts of the Apocrypha books in Hebrew, including Sirach and Tobit. Source. Keep in mind, when reading the following apocryphal books, Martin Luther said, Apocrypha, that is, books which are not regarded as equal to the Holy Scriptures and yet are profitable and good to read. So there's their history. It's
but the Book of Enoch, Jasper, and all that's not in here.
No, that's right, it's not. That's right. Because they're inspired, that's why. And you can thank me for doing it. I took them out of there because after reading them and realizing that the first church had them for 500 years, and when I saw Jude quoted them, and Peter talks about them, and the exact verses Jesus said here was in there, that's inspired. It's a big book. It's got 100 and some chapters in it, but you read it. You make your own decision. That's what I tell people. Don't believe what somebody says is witchcraft. Go ahead and read it first. Then make a decision what you think. I personally believe it's inspired. Matter of fact, all three books. I'm reading Jasher, and what Jasher says, and which is really good, it follows it right from Genesis, and it takes the story of each person and expands on the story of what that person did or didn't do and things that happened. It gives names that you don't find in here, but it does over here in the book of Jasher. So anyhow, this is something to think about. So there we, okay, the last guy we're going to go, good, we've got time for him. John Wycliffe. John Wycliffe. Now you probably heard about Wycliffe. What do they call them today? Translators, right? Well, the reason I have Wycliffe in the dark side is because of where he did all this stuff from. He was an English scholastic philosopher, theologian, Bible translator, reformer, and seminary professor at Oxford. Wycliffe was also an advocate for translation of the Bible into the vernacular. He completed a translation directly from the
What's a vernacular?
word. Like, okay, you talk in English, right? Oh, wait a minute, now listen, you talk in English, right? And you talk with the same inflections, the same, like we'll say, that's cool, stuff like that. Well, that's the vernacular of the day. So he believed it should have been translated in what people understood at that time, and not this high Greek or all this other stuff. But where did he get these translations from? From the what? Vulgate. I call it the Vulgate, but Vulgate. So again, you know, right off it's contaminated. It's because Jerome wrote it, and he wrote it for the Catholic Church into the Middle English in the year 1382, known as Wycliffe's Bible. Wycliffe appears to have been completed in 1384. And that's why I said, listen, you need to know that. Now, there's something that comes out of Wycliffe that we need to know about. Wycliffe followers are known as lollylards. Mumblers. They call them mumblers, lollylards. And followed his lead in abdicating predestination. See, he was also in the big predestination. Well, there is no such thing. Or iconoclasm. What's an iconoclasm? Anybody know? Okay. Glad you asked that. I think we have it in front here. Yes. Iconoclasm. I think it's in there. Maybe it's not. It should be, but it isn't. Yeah, there it is. The practice of destroying images. Especially those created for religious veneration. The practice of opposing cherished beliefs of traditional institutions being found in error or superstition. When the reformers went through Europe, you will find a lot of statues with the heads cut off. Yeah, that was all a historic thing. So when the reformers went through, wherever they were at, and if they had these religious statues, they cut their heads off. And of course that was iconoclasm. they were knocking the idols down. That's what they did. Okay. The notion of Casseroparianism, that's another tongue tire. Go back here. What's Casseroparianism? Exercises supreme authority over ecclesiastical matters by a secular ruler, government in which the church is subordinate to state or a secular ruler. Do we have that in America today? Casseroparianism. Do we have that in America today? Are our churches under the thumb of the government?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. And you know why? Can you tell me why?
Well, we allow.
Well, that's true. You're right. But what has done it? What has put the churches under the government's thumb? Two things. Think about it. What two things would put us under the church, under the government's thumb? So we have to obey all the rules of government.
Well, if you look at society, I mean, the 501c3.
501c3, that's one. Exactly, that's one. But for 501c3 to have any effect, there has to be something else first. They have to be incorporated.
Church and state.
The church has to be incorporated, and then you can get your 501c3, and then Jesus Christ is not head of your church.
Right.
Government is. A book.
So the two things are.
A church that incorporates. First of all, when you incorporate,
Yeah.
you become what, and it's right in the laws, you become a public charity. And you can be controlled by whatever the government is. And then when you go and get the 501c3, now you've made, again, you put both of those, it puts you under the government completely 101%. You no longer, your church is no, your fellowship is no longer, Christ is not the head. And the foolishness is the First Amendment.
But doesn't he tell you also to go by the rules of the land? Which government would be?
No, see, I haven't taught on it in a long time. On Romans 13 is not what everybody says it is. Guess what Romans 13 was? That was Hitler's famous verse that he loves to push on churches. You got to obey every law of government. Oh, I'm government, got to obey me. And the stupid churches did because they don't know what it really says.
And what does it say? It just says what it says.
No, it doesn't.
What does it say then?
You have to look at. You have to know the word. You have to know some of the Greek words.
What does it say?
It says diakonos. When Paul is talking here in there, he's not talking about the secular government at all. He's talking about church government. That's what he's talking about. And the church government, and there's a ton of teaching on it. I mean, we don't get into it one day and really show it to you. I already have taught big time on the 501c3 and stuff. But so. The Day They Padlocked the Church is a book you can get and read with Everett Sullivan back in the 80s. When they came in and padlocked his church and put him in jail because he had a Christian school and they wouldn't follow the government's rules of training the kids the way they wanted. So they came and padlocked the church, dragged him right out of the service and put him in jail. And there's a lot, and I wish I could find the video I had. The people then, later on, days, whatever, they broke the padlock, and they came from all over and were praying in the church. The government didn't like that, so they sent the SWATs and the police, the state police, and all the cops, and came and began to drag people out, praying, screaming. And it was all on video, got the whole thing. The whole thing of how they shut the church down. And he'd say, well, how do they have that authority to do that? Well, they did, and I'll show you why in a minute. So anyhow, the 28 cops involved all ended up in going to psychiatrists and stuff because they were so upset over what they had to do. And they should have never done it. They did. And it was, I had a video of all that. Well, anyhow, Sullivan was put in jail. And his lawyer said, oh, we'll get you out right away. And he said, I don't know about that. Sure enough, he didn't. They didn't. They had murderers, or they had rapists get out. They had thieves get out. They had all this other stuff. Not him. No, they were there. So he'd been in there over, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month, longer. So finally, the judge calls him into his office, and the judge says, "I'm getting ready to retire. And I'm not supposed to tell you this." And he said, "I'm supposed to make an example of you, and I'm supposed to rule that and put you away for a long time in prison because you disobeyed the government." And the judge says, "But I don't care." He said, "I'm retiring." He says, "Go over on that table, pick up that piece of paper." So Pastor Sullivan goes over, picks it up, reads it, and it says the state of Nebraska. Yada yada. Well, I forget the name of the church. First something Baptist Church, etc. And he puts it down. The judge says, "You understand?" "No." "Pick it up and read it again." "Okay." Yada yada yada. "Yeah, okay." So put it down. The judge says, "Now read it again slow." When he picked it up this time, it was like ding. The bulb goes off. The state of Nebraska. Authorizes the church, and And the judge says, "That's why we have jurisdiction over you, because you incorporated. We can do anything we want, including when people were praying, drag them out, because you were incorporated. And you were 501c3, and you're a public charity, and now you're under, and because you're under the state of Nebraska, you have to obey everything we say." So, and he said, "Oh, phew." So he called his lawyer and says, "Unincorporate right away, immediately, tomorrow. Oh, get right in there and do it." So they did. And he got called back. When he went back to the court, took the papers up there, says, and his lawyer went to the judge because they were going to start to try. They were going to trial and all this other stuff, and he had to go for whatever they do. He put the papers up and said, "Judge, would you deal on this first?" And so, yep. He goes, "Case dismissed." Oh, the state goes, "Oh!" They go, "Because he unincorporated. He no longer had jurisdiction." And he got out. Case dropped. That's it. That's it. That's the story. And that's, that's all in there. But those are two things that causes the church to be under this Catholic-Reportianism. They're under the thumb. You want out? Unincorporated. You say, well, how are we going to say their church out? Well, let's say Jesus Christ is the head. And if you train up deacons, elders like you're supposed to, and then you have deacons like you're supposed to, what else do you need? Jesus Christ is your head, and you have a bishop or a pastor over, what else do you need? And God is the head. Well, what about the government? So what? Government, according to the Constitution, First Amendment says what? Government has nothing to do with church. And if you don't give them jurisdiction, they don't have it. You know what the IRS says? And this comes out of the IRS, and they said, we can't understand why churches go for the 501c3 when you're exempt already. It's like, makes no sense to us. Why are you doing that? Because you're exempt already. So, I never was, never will be, never have been under the government, under the fellowship. Never. So there you go. That's it. That's what does it. And that's why all these churches now run around and they're afraid to stand up for righteousness. They're afraid to speak against sin, and they're scared to death that they're not being inclusive, and they want to meld with Islam and everything else. Well, that's all demonic. That's all. Corinthians chapter 6, or I think it's 2 Corinthians 6. Says don't be unequally yoked together. Come on, wake up. And the government has nothing to do. Well, what about our money? Guess what? Forget the money. You don't need the money. Trust God. Trust God. And put a bucket out. However you want to pass the plate, fine. If not, fine. Put a bucket out back there and say, give as the Lord leads. Because this we found out years and years ago too. We'll talk about that issue. We'll kind of end this. When deliverance came along, and the institution, reinstating all this stuff, churches would split a lot of times. They'd lose a third, sometimes half their congregation would go. And guess what they found though? When those people left, the offerings never changed much. They weren't given in the first place. Oh, see, and God loves a cheerful giver. That's why I say, between you and God and that bucket back there, not me. I don't trust in that. I don't want to trust in that, because that, if I do that, it limits me greatly. I mean, I'm chained down. Oh, I got to work. Did so and so give and keep it? No, I don't do that. No. It's cash. Check. I don't want check. Bring it out to me then. I'll put it in the bank. I don't care, because I tell you this. We do have an account. Not in the church name or nothing, but I have a savings account. I put the money in, and I build it up. And whenever we need something, get it. Well, like I said, to produce these books is $20. It cost me $20 for each one of these to make it because of the colors and everything. That's where it all comes from. So all the money's always there. I never worry about it. God always promotes that. And see, and if you trust God, because God says this, if He calls you to a work, He supplies everything you need. You just have to walk in it. Just like your fellowship. I'm sure God supplies whatever you need. You don't have to go out begging people for anything. It just comes as it should if they're taught properly. Again, that's part of our job too, to teach. So anyhow, that's the whole ball of wax and a ball. At the beginning of the 16th century, the Lollard movement was regarded as a precursor to the Protestant Reformation. Wycliffe was accordingly characterized as the evening star of scholasticism and the morning star of the English Reformation. Well, the problem is he drew his stuff from the wrong manuscripts and from the stuff, and that's why I put them in there. So that's the end. And Wednesday we will do a review for the midterm. and then midterms next Monday. And everything up to this point will be on the midterm in one form or another. All questions on the midterm up to 50, first 50 questions are worth 1 point. No, 2 points.
You know, all this.
2 points. Everything from the beginning to there. Everything. Suggestion to make it easier is read it and watch for the underlined stuff. Watch for the underlined stuff. That's usually the most important points. I try to keep the questions, I'll tell
And
you.
as far as definitions,
Oh, yeah.
all of these,
Oh, yeah. The definitions are important. What were the last two I just gave you? Just went over them.
iconoclasm,
Esoteric, let me see, apostocastus, yes, we know that one. Eschatology.
we're gonna review anyway Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I will review and I'll show you stuff. Well, there are
That first test threw me off. So,
well, those are quizzes. There
Yeah,
are some
yeah, but-
words here in the definitions that you don't have to worry about. I'll go over them with you, like 24, 25, 20, 31, 32, 33, and so those we don't have to worry about. But the rest, the first 23, actually I'll give you a break. The first 23, those last three, the first 23 definitions you need to know. Okay? First 23. It's the next section over. There you go. Put it right in there. There you go.
so you don't want us to know these?
Well, what will be known, they might be a generalized, see, here's how the midterms work and final exams. There are 50 questions and there were 2 points apiece. Then we add in usually anywhere from 20 to 25 extra questions, and what you do is you go through the first 50, and if you have 10 wrong or whatever, and you got 10 right out of the next 20 or 25, you could take those 10 and add 1 point to your score. And that worked out. It wasn't designed that way originally, but it just happened. The first one I ever did, I come up with 76 questions, and how am I going to make this fit? So I come up with the idea, well, we'll go 50, and then then you'll have up to 10 extra points you can add on top of your first score. Up to 100 points, up to 100. So they're 2 points each. So that kind of gives people a little thing. Yeah, just study it and read it. Sometimes reading it, just reading it.
It's a lot of information.
Oh, there is a lot.
You've only been doing this 40 years.
Yeah.
So you're breezing through like
Number 1
maniac.
down to 23?
Yeah, up to 23.
1 to 23.
Yeah, we won't do any of the others because most of that we haven't gone over. There's a few words here we have. I can get you the final exam on those.
Oh, and he will, with pride.
Oh, well, I do my job, you know, I have to do the job the Holy Spirit leads me to do, I'll tell you. I can't cut corners like you guys get to cut corners. Every time I do, I get zapped for it. He knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, so anyhow, there you go, and we'll be half done, pretty much. The second half will get a little easier because we get into, we go through Westcott and Hort, we go through the NIV in detail, and then we go into the original Bible line, and then the manuscripts, and we're done. So, then you take your final exam, and you pass the course.
We're going to call you the Mario Andretti teacher.
Speaking. Well, I've done this, this is the third time I've done this course. But you guys are doing good. At first it seems confusing, but some of it should start to make sense now a little bit, why, everything should start to connect together after a while. But I have to go, this is the way God set it up, I had to go all the way back to the very beginning of where everything comes from and how it all fits together. then when you get to the end, you're gonna know, is this Bible real, or is this the Word of God, or isn't it? You won't have to ever argue that point again with anybody. You'll know, for you at least, you'll know.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, God bless everyone, safe trip.
All right.
This
Thank
angel,
you.
his favor for you. And see you Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow's Tuesday.
Bye, bye, John.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
All right. You have a good one, man.
Stuff put away. Books away. And off we go. It's done.